2020 for the Waratahs is going to be an interesting year to watch. New coach, a fair few players who have left, and pretty average schedule, but I guess we'll see how they manage it. The Tars, if you didn't know, are kind of my Aussie team because when I was living in China, there was a guy who was a big Tars man. I used to talk rugby with him a lot. And they were the first and only team that I've seen play outside New Zealand. Like I went to a Blues game in Sydney back before the stadium got demolished, the Allianz Stadium. So, the Tars get a lot of hate. I noticed a lot of Aussies can't stand the Tars, but that's my team as much as I've got an Aussie one. So we will see how they go. I'll talk about the squad. I've already done a review of their season, so I'll check that there. If you want to see kind of some of the areas that they had to work on from last season, some of the areas that didn't go so well, some of the areas that did, and you guys can let me know your thoughts. But for 2020, what's going on? So, if you look at this board here, I've got a list of all the players. Props: Bell, Breen, Faulkner, Johnson, Holmes, O'Connor, Robertson, Talakai, that's Chris, Tian Tawakipulu, and Cody Walker. So when you look at this list, you got Angus Bell didn't play last year. You got Cody Walker didn't play last year. Robertson and Harry Johnson Holmes are probably your mainstays, seeing as Kepu has gone. Faulkner's come from the Rebels. To be fair, the Rebels' scrum was pretty ordinary last year, so we'll see what kind of minutes he gets. And I think O'Connor played 10 games. I worked it out at an average of 14 minutes per game, so he's not what you would call vastly experienced. Likewise, Chris Talakai, 14 games, an average of 13 minutes a game, so not exactly rich in depth. The new guys in there are Breen, Faulkner, and Tawaki Pulu. So I feel like it's going to be Johnson, Holmes, Robertson, and to a lesser extent Faulkner that's going to have to keep things steady in that front row for the Tars. Hookers, you got Abel, Cotton, Fitzpatrick, Horton, and Tuala. Robbie Abel really did a solid job when he came over here to New Zealand to play in the Mitre 10 Cup. He was part of an Auckland team which won the Mitre 10 Cup for the first time in many years, but he seems to not quite make it at Super Rugby level for whatever reason. So we'll see if he gets a crack at the Tars. They've also got Fitzpatrick. They've lost Pilota now and Latu, so there should be a few minutes to be had. Tuala played 48 minutes last year. Fitzpatrick's kind of your main guy. I think he's over in France at the minute. They've got a decent amount of depth there at hooker, but not one that you would say is like a really elite level hooker. Second row, Douglas Hannigan, if you want to include him as a second rower. Holloway, McCauley, Simmons, Staniforth, and Jeremy Williams. So again, I think this is one area where they're decently provisioned. Simmons, who was actually their main minutes guy last year, he's still there for better or worse. Hannigan, he and Simmons will be your main guys to cop a bit of flack anytime the Tars lose, especially with some other guys departing who also copped a bit of flack. Holloway, Staniforth. I think among those four guys, that's probably the main minute getters. Whether Hannigan plays in the back row or the second row will be an interesting one to watch. Max Douglas, McCauley played 24 minutes last year. Williams, I think those guys will kind of be injury cover and whatnot. We'll see. The back row, Dempsey, Gamble, Hooper, Sinclair, Swinton, and Tizano. The new additions there are Gamble and Tizano. So Gamble's coming from the NRC. Tizano's come from the Force. He gets a pretty good rap, but he's only 19 years old. I don't know much about him. Hooper, I think, is going to be a mainstay. I forgot to mention Harris and Tuffa as well, but neither of them played last year. So, like I mentioned, you've got Hannigan who can kind of switch in and out. So they do have options. Hooper is your probably only Wallaby in that lot. I mean, maybe Simmons in the second row as well. But in terms of back rowers, maybe Dempsey too. But yeah, we'll see. Backs, Gordon, McDonald, Robertson, that's Henry and Mitch Short. So Jake Gordon, now that Phipps has left, he's another guy who always copped a bit of flack. He's going to be the guy in the number 9 jersey. Mitch Short didn't play last year. So, and you got 2 new guys, Robertson and McDonald, who are both fresh to the squad. So if Jake Gordon goes down, there could be problems for the Tars, but I do prefer Gordon as your number 9, so we'll see how he goes. And then you get to jersey number 10 and things get quite interesting because Bernard Foley's gone. You got Mac Mason. He played 4 games last year. And from what I can remember of him, he was a wee way short of the level he needed to be at. I don't mean to be hard on a young guy, but I feel like, give him time, but he didn't seem up to running a team for a full Super Rugby season from what I saw of him last year, which was a limited amount. Will Harrison didn't play last year, and then you got Jack Walsh coming in. He's part of the development squad. So the 10 question remains an interesting one. But there are further names on this list because you've still got Kurtley Beale, who can play 10. I don't know that I would like to see them set up with him playing 10 for a full year either. I think he's best at 12, but they might also put him at fullback because that's where the Wallabies have had him operating. I'm not sure what kind of relationship the coach at the Tars will have with the coach of the Wallabies. So you got Foketi, who's solid last year. You got Joey Walton, who's come in from the NRC. And you get Moeroa, come back from rugby league after playing, I think, 6 years of rugby league. He said he's keen on 12 or 13. So I think for the midfield, they've got lots of options. Outside backs, Cam Clark. A new guy named from the NRC also, Mark Nawanganiwase. Itawase. From Domenico Wanganiborotu, I'm going to assume the Q is that sound. I'm going to go with that. I haven't seen him play, but I imagine he's probably a guy of Fijian heritage who's probably pretty quick. Alex Newsom, James Ram, who didn't play last year, and another guy who's come in from the Sevens, which is Tristan Riley. Plus you got Ben Donaldson, Carmichael Hunt, and recently Jack Maddox. So they've certainly got guys who can float between different roles. Carmichael Hunt could go into the midfield. Jack Maddox could even go to 10. He's played at 10. He played one preseason game at 10 for the Rebels when they thumped the Brumbies. And there was talk of him always wanting to kind of move in, do a Larkham and kind of move into the 10 jersey. So whether he really wanted to head back to New South Wales because his family's there, like has been mentioned, whether he's been told he can play in a position he prefers, maybe he just thinks that squad's better off than the Rebel squad. There's also talk about him potentially playing sevens during the Olympics, so his true motivations will be, I mean, maybe he's just legit, maybe he just misses his family. Some people do that. They do better when they're around, but like Beale always seems better when he's in New South Wales. He's had issues in the past, but seems to be better. So maybe that's just a legit thing. Maybe I'm just being a bit cynical, but there's options. Rob Penny's the new coach. Daryl Gibson's not continued on. Probably the right move after last year, I think. Though, to be fair, they did have a fair bit of dramas last year with the whole Israel Folau thing. So hopefully this is kind of a fresh start for the Tars with a new coach, a few new players. They've lost, Israel Folau, like I mentioned, Curtis Rona, Adam Ashley Cooper's gone, Nick Phipps, as I mentioned, Bernard Foley, Sakopi Kepu, all these guys have left. So you would say it's probably a rebuilding year. They're not favoured to do much by the bookies. They're kind of way down there, but I guess prove us wrong. If I looked at a starting 15, you could go Harry Johnson, Holmes, Fitzpatrick, and Robertson in the front row. I really like Harry Johnson Holmes. I think he's needs another year to kick on, but he's doing all right. Simmons and Holloway in second row, maybe. Hannigan, Dempsey, and Hooper back row. I know people hate Hannigan. When he fronts up, he can do all right, and it's not bad having a lock, a loose here with a bit of lock about him, so he can help out at line-out time. Gordon, and I've gone Maddox, 10. Chuck him in at 10. I'm going with that as the guess in terms of what he wanted. He wants to play 10. The Tars need a 10. Boom. Let's go with that. Fokiti and Moeroa in the midfield, which is probably a touch inexperienced. Fokiti having a guy who's been playing league for the last 6 years outside him. Tough job, but I'm putting it in. Beale I'll slot to 15. I like the idea of Beale at 15 if you're going to play Maddox at 10, because then they can kind of interchange. You can chuck Beale into the 10 role, the first receiver role, when you need to, and then you can put Cam Clark and Alex Newsom on the wings. All good. Is that a Super Rugby winning team? Probably not, but it's not bad. Bit of hope for the Tars. We will see how they go. In terms of the schedule, I kind of and ah about which pronunciation to use for that word, schedule or schedule, but some guy on Facebook, one subscriber shared one of my previews on Facebook. That was Christian. Thanks, Christian. And the only comment he got from either his page or the page he shared it to was someone who can't stand people saying schedule and says we should say schedule. So I think for the rest of the time I'll probably have to say schedule. There we go. Nobody pronounces words the same way. Do you say cell phone or mobile phone? Anyway, getting distracted. The Waratahs schedule. It's a bit of a mixed bag. They get a couple of away games. I mean, away to the Crusaders. That's a pretty tough start. You can probably write that one off. Home to the Blues, maybe there's a chance to pick up a scalp of a New Zealand team there. Away to the Rebels, that could be an important one in the scheme of things for that Aussie conference. Then a bye, a couple of home games, Lions and Chiefs, away, home, and then the trip to South Africa is kind of bang in the middle. So I don't mind where the byes are placed. Round 4 is not too bad. It could be a little bit later. And then round 13, they do finish, I think this is what kind of makes it a bit tough. Of their final 4 games, 3 of them are away and one of them's in Japan. So you got Japan for the Sunwolves in 13. It's in 15. And then Reds away in 16, Brumbies at home in 17, and then Hurricanes away in 18. So you wouldn't like to be trying to pick up a few points in those last few weeks. You'd kind of want to be already settled about your business, but we'll see. But yeah, I mean, the new coach, he won a bunch of ITM Cup, which is now Mitre 10 Cup titles with Canterbury here in New Zealand. He was okay at Munster from what I know. I didn't really follow him. I wasn't following the Pro 12 when it was the Pro 12 back then. And then he's been in Japan for a few years. So he's taken on a job. This is the squad he's got to do some work with. Hopefully they can get some core stuff right and attract some fans to the games. But you guys let me know your thoughts on the Tars squad, their fixtures. How do you think they're going to go? The expectations for them for the 2020 season. It really should be an interesting one. I hope Mac Mason proves me wrong and is goes on to pick it up a gear in this coming year. Developing player. Hopefully he takes that step up and really settled in to controlling a game at Super Rugby. But it does remain kind of the biggest question about how the Tars are going to go this year. But yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts. Drop me a like if you liked it, Tars fans. I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.